Commander Elias Ward sat in the cold steel cockpit of the human transport ship Endeavour, staring at the swirling colors of space ahead. Stars blinked like distant lanterns, but his mind was heavy. This mission was unlike any he had faced before. Diplomacy with the Xylarian Empire was dangerous. They were known across the galaxy for their pride, power, and cunning. Humans were clever, yes, but fragile compared to the might of the Xylarians. Elias rubbed his temple. At 45, he was not as fast as he used to be, and he had seen friends fall in wars across countless star systems. Yet here he was, chosen to carry out a mission that many younger soldiers would envy. But he didn't feel lucky. "I'm too old for this," he muttered under his breath, glancing at the mission file projected on the screen before him. The Xylarians were a proud species, tall and strong, with iridescent skin that shimmered under light. They ruled the planet Zithra with precision and force. Their queen, Melira, was ancient by Xylarian standards, her years of leadership visible in the soft lines of her face and the calm, calculating look in her eyes. But she was respected, feared, and loved by her people. Humanity's mission was simple on paper: protect the Xylarian princess Vela from rival factions that wished to exploit her youth and power. In practice, it was anything but simple. Elias had faced countless enemies in his career, but negotiating the loyalty of a proud alien empire was a test of mind, courage, and patience. The ship landed with a low hum on the outer plains of Zithra. The planet's surface was a mosaic of strange crystalline forests and violet sands, glowing faintly in the light of Zithra's twin suns. It was beautiful, but beauty did not make it safe. Elias checked his equipment: laser sidearm charged, comms link active, and tactical suit functioning perfectly. As the ship's ramp descended, a squad of Xylarian guards approached, their movements precise and disciplined. Elias stepped forward, raising his hands in the universal sign of peace. "Commander Elias Ward, I presume?" one of them asked in a smooth, melodic voice. His skin shimmered blue and gold, reflecting the morning sun. "I am General Krith. Follow me. The Queen awaits." Elias nodded, masking the tension that twisted in his chest. Humans were respected for their intelligence, but many Xylarians still saw them as fragile animals. He had to prove them wrong, not with brute strength, but with wit, courage, and careful judgment. The journey to the royal palace was long. The crystal forest reflected the sun's rays in dazzling patterns, making it difficult to focus. Elias kept his mind on the mission. He observed the soldiers silently, noting how their movements were synchronized like a single organism. Humans could never move like that, but humans had other strengths: adaptability, creativity, and courage in impossible situations. When they arrived at the palace, Elias was taken aback. It was not a palace in the human sense. It was a living structure, grown from massive crystalline trees that bent and twisted into towers. The air shimmered with energy, and he could feel the pulse of Zithra's life force beneath his boots. Queen Melira awaited him in a hall of light. She was seated on a throne grown from crystal, her presence commanding yet weary. Her eyes, deep pools of violet, studied Elias carefully. "Commander Ward," she said, her voice soft but edged with authority. "You come at a difficult time. My daughter, Princess Vela, is the target of factions within and outside my empire. You will protect her." Elias bowed slightly. "Your Majesty, I will do my duty. I will protect the princess at all costs." The queen's gaze softened for a moment. "Do you know, human, what it means to protect a Xylarian heir?" "Many have tried. Many have failed," Elias swallowed. He had faced impossible odds before, but the weight of the queen's words pressed heavily on him. "I am aware, Your Majesty, but humans are resourceful. We adapt. We find ways where others see only walls." Melira's lips curved into a faint, approving smile. "Perhaps. Time will tell. But I must warn you, this will not be a simple task. The factions are clever, ruthless, and patient. My daughter is capable, but she is young. Her instincts are sharp, but her experience is limited. That is why I have asked for your help." At that moment, the doors to the hall opened and Princess Vela entered. She was unlike anything Elias had expected. Her long, iridescent hair shimmered in shades of silver and violet. Her eyes, sharp and observant, scanned the room with the curiosity of someone who had been trained to command but had not yet learned to trust easily. "Commander Ward," she said, her voice polite but cold, "I hear humans are clever. I hope you are clever enough to survive Zithra's challenges." Elias met her gaze steadily. "I will do my best, Princess. I promise." The princess studied him for a moment, then gave a small nod. "Very well. Then let us begin." Lyra's expression grew thoughtful. She moved closer to Elias, lowering her voice so only he could hear. "I am too old for this," she whispered. "But you can take my daughter instead." Elias felt the weight of her words. She was entrusting him with something far more valuable than any artifact or secret. She was entrusting him with life, the future of an empire. He nodded solemnly. "I will not fail you, Your Majesty." The Queen's hand rested briefly on his shoulder, a gesture of trust rare among Xylarians. Then she stepped back, regal and distant once more. As Elias and Vela prepared to leave the palace, he noticed her studying him carefully. There was skepticism in her eyes, a quiet challenge. She had been trained to lead, to fight to survive, but she had never encountered a human who had earned her attention. The first leg of their journey took them through the amethyst plains, vast fields of violet sands dotted with crystalline outcrops. The sun reflected off the crystals in blinding patterns. Vela moved with ease, her steps sure, but Elias noticed how she hesitated when the ground trembled lightly. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Princess," he said, "trust your instincts. They will guide you." Vela looked at him, her expression unreadable. "I am used to following my instincts, but I will listen to yours. For now." They set up camp for the night near a crystal grove. As Elias prepared a simple human meal, Vela watched silently. "Humans live simply," she observed. "I expected more." "Extravagance," Elias chuckled softly. "Simplicity has its strengths. It teaches you to value what matters, to be resourceful. Humans survive because we adapt, not because we are the strongest." Vela tilted her head, curious despite herself. "Perhaps I underestimated your kind." As the twin suns of Zithera dipped below the horizon, casting long purple shadows, Elias felt a strange mix of anxiety and determination. The journey ahead would test them both, physically, mentally, and emotionally. He knew that the galaxy was watching, that enemies lurked in shadow waiting for a mistake. But he also knew something else. Humans had survived impossible odds before, and they would survive again. He glanced at Vela, sitting quietly, her eyes reflecting the stars above. "This will be a dangerous journey," he said softly. "But together, we might just make it." Vela nodded, and for the first time Elias sensed a flicker of trust. Perhaps this unlikely partnership, forged in tension and necessity, could change not only the fate of a princess but the future of an empire. As the night deepened, a gentle wind rustled the crystalline trees around them. In that quiet moment, Commander Elias Ward understood the true meaning of the Queen's words. He was not just a soldier. He was a protector, a guardian, and humans, underestimated and dismissed across the galaxy, were about to show what they were truly capable of. The first part of their journey had begun, and nothing would ever be the same. The twin suns of Zithera had barely risen when Commander Elias Ward and Princess Vela resumed their journey across the amethyst plains. The violet sands stretched endlessly, broken only by jagged crystalline formations that glimmered in the morning light. Though beautiful, the land was treacherous. Sharp crystal shards could pierce armor, and hidden fissures threatened to swallow the unwary. Vela moved with confidence, her steps light and precise, yet she occasionally glanced at Elias as if seeking reassurance. She had grown up on a planet where strength and skill were everything, but humans operated differently. They relied on ingenuity, quick thinking, and an uncanny ability to find solutions where none seemed possible. Elias had already proven that much in the palace, and she was beginning to see that he was more than a simple soldier. "Commander," Vela said, breaking the silence as they navigated around a deep fissure, "why do humans carry so little? You have only what is necessary, yet you survive." Elias smiled, adjusting the pack on his shoulder. "Simplicity is strength. Carry too much and you become slow. Carry too little and you have to think. Humans survive because we adapt. We use our minds as much as our bodies." Vela considered his words, eyes scanning the plains. "Perhaps that is why my mother trusts you," she said softly. "Xylarians often rely on power alone. Humans, you have a different kind of strength." Elias nodded, feeling a spark of respect from the princess. That trust, fragile as it was, might make the difference between life and death on this journey. As the day wore on, the plains grew hotter, the violet sands reflecting the sun's rays with blinding intensity. Sweat ran down Elias's forehead beneath his tactical helmet. Despite his age, he pushed on, guiding Vela over the shifting terrain. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath their feet, sending tiny shards of crystal clattering across the sand. "Earthquake?" Vela asked, alarmed. "No," Elias said, crouching instinctively. "Not natural. Something is moving beneath us." Before she could ask more, a series of mechanical creatures burst from a hidden canyon. They were squat, four-legged machines glinting metal against the purple sands. Elias recognized them immediately. Mercenaries from a rogue Xylarian faction hired to intercept the princess. "Stay behind me," Elias shouted, drawing his sidearm. The creatures moved quickly, snapping with metallic claws. Humans might not have the raw strength of Xylarians, but they had strategy. Elias dove to the side, firing with precision, aiming for joints and circuits. Vela followed, using her agility to leap onto the crystals, avoiding attacks. But even she struggled to match the humans' improvisation. Elias noticed the creature's pattern. They moved predictably when cornered. He grinned slightly, forming a plan. "Vela, when I say now, push that crystal over," he shouted. The princess hesitated, then nodded. At the exact moment Elias leapt aside, Vela pushed with all her strength. The crystal teetered, then crashed down onto the attackers, crushing several and scattering the rest. They ran, hearts pounding, until the machines were gone. Vela looked at Elias, eyes wide. "Your tactics. Humans think differently than we do." "I did not expect that." Elias laughed softly. "Never underestimate humans, princess. We survive not by being the strongest, but by being clever." As night approached, they found shelter in a small canyon. Elias set up a protective barrier, using human technology to detect movement. Vela watched silently as he worked, clearly impressed. The stars above Zithra were unlike any she had seen. Twin moons reflected off the crystalline landscape, casting a surreal light that danced across the canyon walls. "Why did my mother choose a human?" Vela asked finally, her voice low. Elias paused, looking at her. "Because sometimes strength alone is not enough. Humans survive in ways others cannot. You may have power, princess, but you need someone who can think differently, act quickly, and protect you when brute force is not enough. That is what humans bring to the table." Vela considered his words. "Then perhaps I misjudged your kind." The next morning they continued their trek, moving toward the Crystal Spine Mountains, a jagged range rumored to be a hideout for rogue factions. Along the way they encountered more challenges. Shifting sands that acted like quicksand, crystal storms that cut the skin if unprotected and eerie, glowing creatures that stalked them silently in the night. Despite the dangers, Elias remained calm, guiding Vela through each obstacle. He showed her how to use the environment to their advantage, hiding in shadows, using crystals as mirrors to detect movement, and creating traps to slow pursuers. Slowly, Vela's respect for him grew. She began to realize that humans were not fragile. They were adaptable, resourceful, and clever beyond measure. On the third day, they came across a ravine filled with glowing blue crystals. A narrow path crossed it, unstable and treacherous. Vela tested the first steps, but the ground cracked beneath her foot. Elias grabbed her arm, pulling her back. "Careful," he warned. "We move slowly, one step at a time. Watch the crystals. They tell you where it is safe to step." Together they crossed, relying on careful observation and human ingenuity, rather than speed or brute strength. When they reached solid ground, Vela let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. "You saved me," she said, looking at Elias with newfound admiration. "I do what I can," he replied. "Humans survive by thinking ahead. That is how I protect you." As evening fell, they set camp near a crystal waterfall. The sound of cascading water was soothing, a rare moment of peace on a dangerous journey. Vela spoke softly, almost to herself. "Perhaps humans are not so weak after all." Elias smiled, offering her a small portion of his meal. "We are stronger than most give us credit for. And sometimes strength is more than muscle. It is courage, cleverness, and heart." Vela accepted the food, still quiet, thinking about the journey so far. She realized that the human before her was unlike anyone she had known. He did not rely on the kind of raw power Xylarians prized. Yet he faced danger with a calm certainty, adapting to every challenge with skill and intelligence. The night passed quietly, the twin moons casting gentle light across the landscape. Yet both Elias and Vela knew that danger was never far behind. Rogue factions would not give up easily, and the journey to safety was far from over. In the morning, as the suns rose, Elias examined the horizon. "The Crystal Spine Mountains are ahead," he said. "Rough terrain, but also good cover. We can rest, plan, and prepare there. But we must move quickly. Our enemies are clever, they will not wait for us to rest." Vela nodded. "Then we move together." "I will follow your lead, Commander. Your human ways, they may be the only thing keeping us alive." Elias felt a sense of pride mixed with responsibility. Humans were underestimated across the galaxy, but here on a strange alien world their ingenuity was proving itself. He knew the real test lay ahead in the mountains, against enemies who would challenge not just strength but intelligence and courage. As they advanced toward the jagged peaks, Vela glanced at him again, her eyes reflecting both the sun's light and a growing trust. "Perhaps," she whispered, "this human is exactly what I need." Elias kept his eyes on the horizon, alert for danger. "And perhaps, Princess, humans are exactly what the galaxy needs to survive," he said softly. The journey continued, each step testing their limits, each challenge revealing the strength not just of body, but of mind and spirit. Together, human and princess moved forward, their unlikely partnership forming the foundation of a story that would soon shake the galaxy. The unknown lay ahead, filled with danger, mystery, and opportunity. And Elias knew one truth. Humans were underestimated for a reason, but that did not mean they were weak. In fact, it often meant the opposite. The Crystal Spine Mountains rose sharply against the twin suns of Zithera, their jagged peaks piercing the sky like massive glass spears. Commander Elias Ward and Princess Vela approached the range cautiously, knowing that the rogue factions that sought the princess were clever, dangerous, and patient. Every step forward felt heavy with tension, but Elias remained calm, guiding Vela through the rough terrain. "Stay close," he instructed. "The mountains are beautiful, but beauty can be deadly. Hidden paths, unstable crystals, and enemies waiting for a mistake. We must watch every step." Vela followed, her eyes scanning the jagged rocks. Unlike humans, Xylarians were trained to rely on physical strength, speed, and precision. Elias relied on something different: observation, planning, and the ability to turn every challenge into an opportunity. By midday, they reached a narrow ridge that overlooked a deep canyon below. Crystalline formations jutted out at strange angles, creating both danger and cover. Vela's eyes widened at the sight. "The rogue faction could be anywhere," she said, her voice tense. "This is the perfect place for an ambush." Elias nodded. "Exactly. That's why we move carefully. Observe, anticipate, and act. Strength alone will not save us here." They had not gone far when movement in the shadows caught Elias's attention. Metallic shapes scuttled across the rocks. More mercenaries, faster and stronger than the machines they had faced in the plains. Elias quickly assessed the terrain. He could not fight them head-on. Humans had no chance in a direct clash with these heavily armed foes. But humans had strategy. Humans had cunning. "Vela, listen carefully," he whispered. "We can use the terrain. Crystals can fall, rocks can shift, and we can create traps. When I give the signal, act quickly." The first wave of mercenaries leapt forward, their claws and weapons gleaming in the sunlight. Vela instinctively stepped forward to fight using her Xylarian martial training. She moved swiftly, striking at one attacker, then another. But Elias could see she was overextending. Her strength alone would not be enough. "Step back," he shouted. Vela hesitated, then obeyed. Elias leapt onto a nearby rock, scanning the enemy. He noticed a large crystal formation above the ridge, precariously balanced. A simple push could topple it, creating a barrier and scattering the attackers. "Now," he commanded. Vela followed his lead, using her strength to push smaller crystals down the ridge. The larger crystal, pushed by Elias at the right angle, crashed onto the path below, cutting off the first wave of mercenaries. The sound of shattering crystal echoed through the canyon as the attackers scrambled to avoid being trapped. "Good work," Elias said quietly. "You see, Princess, strength alone is not enough. Strategy wins the day." Vela nodded, a mix of admiration and surprise in her eyes. "Your human ways, they are different." "I did not expect this." The remaining mercenaries regrouped, moving faster and more cautiously. Elias and Vela retreated to a narrow ledge, giving themselves a moment to breathe. Elias examined the attackers' movements. They were smart, coordinated, and patient. But humans had patience too. Humans could outthink even the most disciplined enemy. "Princess," Elias said, crouching beside her. "Watch how they move. Predict their patterns. Anticipate their next step. Humans survive by seeing what others cannot." Vela studied them carefully, noting the rhythm of their movements. Slowly, she began to understand. The human strength was not in muscle, but in observation, prediction, and adaptability. With Elias's guidance, she could use her own abilities more effectively. The next wave of attackers charged. This time, Vela acted on Elias's instructions, guiding them into narrow passages where their size became a disadvantage. Elias used small rocks and fallen crystals to block and redirect them, forcing the mercenaries into tight spaces where their weapons were less effective. Together, human ingenuity and Xylarian skill created a perfect synergy. Vela struck at just the right moments, her movements precise and calculated, while Elias used traps and diversions to control the battlefield. Slowly, the attackers were pushed back, unable to break through the combined strategy. One mercenary, larger and stronger than the rest, tried to flank them. Elias noticed immediately. "Vela, to your right." "Block the path," he shouted. Vela acted quickly, intercepting the attacker and using her martial skills in combination with Elias's guidance. The mercenary stumbled, caught off guard by the unexpected coordination. Elias took advantage, pushing a nearby crystal into the path, sending the attacker tumbling into the canyon below. The remaining mercenaries, seeing their leader defeated, retreated into the shadows, leaving Elias and Vela victorious. Vela turned to Elias, breathing heavily. I did not expect humans to fight like this," she admitted. "It is not raw strength. It is cleverness, strategy, intelligence." Elias smiled, clapping her gently on the shoulder. "That is what humans do. We survive not because we are the strongest, but because we think, adapt, and act when others hesitate." The princess considered his words, a thoughtful expression on her face. "Perhaps my mother was right," she said softly. "I need more than strength to survive. I need this kind of thinking." Elias nodded, feeling a surge of pride. Humans were underestimated across the galaxy. But here, on a dangerous alien world, their abilities were proving invaluable. As they continued their journey deeper into the mountains, they encountered more challenges. Narrow ledges, unstable cliffs, and sudden crystal storms tested their endurance and skill. Each time, Elias found creative ways to overcome the obstacles, teaching Vela to use her environment to her advantage, rather than relying solely on strength. By nightfall, they found shelter in a small cave illuminated by glowing crystals. The air was cool, a welcome relief after the harsh sun of the plains. Vela sat beside Elias, her mind still racing from the day's events. "You have taught me much, Commander," she said quietly, "not only about surviving, but about seeing opportunities where others see only danger." Elias looked at her, impressed by her humility and willingness to learn. "You are a strong Xylarian, Princess. Strength is important, but intelligence and observation make you unstoppable. Humans may be underestimated, but together we can overcome almost anything." Vela smiled faintly, a rare expression from someone who had spent her life in strict training and careful control. "I am beginning to understand. Your human ways are not weak at all." Elias chuckled softly. "Good. You will need that understanding. The journey ahead will be even more dangerous. The rogue faction is clever, and they will not give up easily. But together, we can face them." As they settled down for the night, the cave glowing softly around them, Elias reflected on the day. Humans had survived countless dangers across the stars, often underestimated by those who measured strength only by size or power. Yet here on Zithera, human ingenuity had turned the tide in a battle that could have been fatal. Vela, sitting quietly beside him, seemed lost in thought. She had seen the power of strategy, the value of observation, and the strength of a human mind. Slowly, she realized that she was not merely being protected, she was learning to survive in ways she had never imagined. The twin moons rose above the mountains, casting a silver light across the crystalline peaks. Elias knew that the journey was far from over. Rogue factions awaited, the terrain would grow more dangerous, and the princess's skills would be tested again and again. But he also knew one truth. Humans were underestimated for a reason, and that reason would soon become their greatest strength. As the night deepened, Vela turned to him, eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Commander, I think I am beginning to trust you, and perhaps trust humans as well." Elias nodded quietly. Trust is earned, Princess. And so far we have both earned a little of it from each other. Tomorrow will be harder, but together we can face it. The cave was silent except for the soft hum of the crystal formations. Outside, the mountains loomed like silent sentinels waiting for the next challenge. Elias and Vela rested, knowing that the real test was still ahead. But for the first time, the princess saw the truth. Humans were not fragile, weak, or ordinary. They were clever, adaptable, and courageous. And with those qualities, they could survive anything, even the dangers that awaited in the heart of the Crystal Spine Mountains. The Crystal Spine Mountains grew taller and sharper as Commander Elias Ward and Princess Vela pressed onward. Each step tested their endurance. Jagged cliffs, narrow ledges, and deep chasms demanded focus. The rogue faction they were pursuing had set traps along the way. But humans had a different way of thinking, anticipating danger and turning it to their advantage. "Careful here," Elias warned, pointing to a narrow ledge that was partially broken. One wrong step and the fall could be fatal. Vela moved cautiously, testing each step. Her Xylarian training made her agile, but she had learned from Elias that strategy was often more valuable than skill alone. Humans survive by thinking ahead. Xylarians relied on strength and reflexes. Humans relied on observation and planning. The difference was subtle, but in life and death situations it mattered greatly. By midday they reached a plateau overlooking a massive fortress carved into the mountain itself. The rogue faction had made this place their stronghold. Spikes of black crystal surrounded the outer walls, and mechanical sentinels patrolled the area. It was an imposing sight, one that could intimidate even the bravest of warriors. Elias crouched behind a rock, scanning the fortress. "This is it, Princess. The rogue faction is clever, but so are we. Notice their patterns, how the sentinels move. We will need more than strength to get through this." Vela studied the fortress, her eyes sharp. "They expect direct attacks. They think they are prepared. But humans, you think differently. You see weaknesses," Elias smiled faintly. "Exactly. Now watch closely." They began their approach using the natural cover of the mountain slopes. Elias showed Vela how to move quietly, using shadows and rocks to remain unseen. The sentinels, though strong and heavily armed, were predictable when observed carefully. With precise timing, they avoided detection, advancing toward a hidden entrance at the base of the fortress. Once inside, the rogue faction had set traps, corridors filled with pressure plates, swinging blades, and laser barriers. Vela moved instinctively, her Xylarian training helping her react to immediate danger. But Elias guided her mind as well, teaching her to anticipate where traps might be, how to create distractions, and how to use the enemy's overconfidence against them. "This is what humans do," Elias whispered. "We see solutions where others see only obstacles. Every trap has a pattern. Every enemy has a weakness. We exploit it." Vela nodded, her respect for Elias growing with each passing moment. She had been trained to rely on strength, but now she saw that cleverness, strategy, and observation could be even more powerful. As they advanced deeper into the fortress, they encountered a group of rogue soldiers guarding a hallway. Vela prepared to engage directly, but Elias stopped her. "Wait," he said. "We don't attack head-on. We use the environment." He scanned the room, noticing an overhead panel that looked unstable. With careful timing, he threw a small rock, causing it to collapse onto the guards. The sudden distraction created an opening for them to slip past unnoticed. Vela's eyes widened. "Your human ways, they are remarkable. I have never seen anything like this." Elias smiled. "And you will see more. Strength is useful, but intelligence saves lives." Further inside, they reached the fortress core, where the rogue faction leader awaited. The leader was a massive Xylarian, heavily armored and confident. He had underestimated the humans' cleverness, relying on brute force and intimidation. "You dare enter my fortress?" the leader growled, his voice echoing through the crystal walls. "You are only human. You cannot hope to defeat me." Elias stepped forward, calm and unshaken. "Humans survive because we adapt. We find solutions others cannot see. You may be strong, but strength alone does not win battles." The leader charged, relying on raw power and speed. Vela engaged as well, striking with precision. But Elias used careful strategy, luring the leader into a narrow corridor where his size became a disadvantage. "Now, Princess," Elias shouted. Vela acted instantly, using her martial skill in combination with Elias's plan. She guided the leader into a trap, collapsing a section of the crystal ceiling, forcing him to dodge and stumble. The leader was powerful, but Elias's human ingenuity had turned the environment into a weapon. The rogue soldiers rushed to aid him, but Elias had anticipated their moves. He and Vela used small collapsible barriers and distractions, guiding the enemy into dead ends and trapping them one by one. The fortress, built to intimidate and overpower, became a maze that worked against its own defenders. By the time the last rogue soldier surrendered, the fortress was under control. Elias and Vela stood in the central chamber, catching their breath. Vela looked at Elias with admiration. "Your strategy? It saved us. I see now that humans are not weak. You think adapt and act where others fail?" Elias nodded. "And you, Princess, are learning to combine your strength with strategy. That is a powerful combination. Humans and Xylarians can complement each other, and together we are unstoppable." Vela's expression softened. She realized that the journey had changed her perspective. She had once believed that raw power was the key to survival. Now she saw that intelligence, courage, and adaptability were just as important. Humans, long underestimated, had proven their worth. Outside the fortress, the Queen's forces had begun to arrive, alerted by the clearing of the rogue faction. When Mylera arrived, she saw Elias and Vela standing together in the fortress core, the remaining soldiers subdued and restrained. "Commander Ward," the Queen said, her eyes reflecting pride and relief. "You have done what few could. You have proven the value of humans in ways that cannot be measured by strength alone. My daughter is safe and the rogue faction has been neutralized." Elias bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. Humans may be underestimated, but we survive through cleverness, adaptability, and courage." Mylera nodded, a rare smile gracing her face. "You have shown me that humans are more than capable. Your actions have not only protected my daughter, but strengthened the bonds between our peoples. Perhaps I was too old to do this myself, but my trust in you was not misplaced." Vela stepped forward, looking at Elias with respect and gratitude. "I underestimated you at first, Commander. I see now that humans are not just clever, they are extraordinary. I am grateful for your guidance, your strategy, and your courage." Elias felt a warmth of satisfaction. This was what humans could do: survive, adapt, and achieve the impossible even when others doubted them. He had not only protected the princess but also helped her grow in understanding. Together they had overcome a challenge that could have destroyed them both. The Queen gestured toward the captured rogue faction soldiers. "Let them be taken into custody. They will answer for their actions. And you, Commander, and you, Princess, deserve rest. The journey ahead will continue, but you have shown that strength is more than muscle. It is intelligence, courage, and heart." Vela turned to Elias, a faint smile on her face. "I will remember this lesson. Humans are not weak, and together, we can face any danger." Elias nodded, looking at the mountains stretching beyond the fortress. The journey was far from over. There were still challenges ahead, still enemies who underestimated humans, still obstacles that would test their limits. But he also knew one truth: humans were powerful in ways the galaxy often failed to recognize. Cleverness, adaptability, and courage could turn the tide in impossible situations. As the sun set behind the Crystal Spine Mountains, casting long shadows across the fortress, Elias and Vela prepared for the next stage of their journey. The rogue faction was defeated, but the galaxy was vast, full of dangers and opportunities. They would need all their strength, intelligence, and teamwork to navigate what lay ahead. For the first time, Vela truly understood her mother's decision. Trusting a human was not a gamble, it was a calculated choice. And that choice had saved her life, taught her new ways to think, and forged a bond that could change the course of their world. Elias, standing beside her, knew the same. Humans were underestimated, yes, but their greatest strength lay in the qualities that others overlooked: quick thinking, courage, and the ability to adapt. Together, human and princess had faced a trial by combat and emerged victorious, stronger and wiser than before. And the galaxy would soon learn that humans, though underestimated, were capable of greatness beyond imagination. The next stage of their journey awaited, and they would face it not with fear, but with the quiet confidence of those who knew the true meaning of strength. The sun rose over Zithera, casting violet and gold light across the Crystal Spine Mountains. Commander Elias Ward and Princess Vela stood at the edge of the fortress they had reclaimed. The rogue faction was defeated, but the day's journey had left them both exhausted. Yet exhaustion did not lessen the satisfaction of their victory. They had faced danger, uncertainty, and enemies who underestimated humans, and they had succeeded. Vela turned to Elias, her expression a mixture of admiration and curiosity. "I never thought humans could do all that," she said softly. "I thought your kind was clever, yes, but underestimated, weak. I see now that was wrong." Elias smiled faintly. "Strength alone does not define us, Princess. We survive because we adapt. We think, we plan, and we act when others hesitate. That is what humans do." The princess considered his words. "I see that now. Your courage, your cleverness. It has saved my life more than once." Elias shook his head. "Not just mine. This was a partnership. We both had to act, think, and trust each other. That is how humans succeed, not alone, but together." Vela's eyes softened. For the first time, she truly understood the choice her mother had made in entrusting her to a human's care. The queen's words echoed in her mind. "I am too old for this, but you can take my daughter instead." As they prepared to return to the Xylarian capital, the queen's forces arrived, securing the fortress and escorting the remaining rogue soldiers to custody. The queen herself, Malera, appeared on the battlements, her regal presence commanding attention. She smiled at the sight of her daughter and Elias standing together victorious. "Commander Ward," she said, her voice calm but full of pride, "you have exceeded all expectations. Not only have you protected my daughter, but you have demonstrated the value of human ingenuity. My people have long underestimated humans, judging strength by physical power alone. Today you have proven that courage, intelligence, and adaptability are just as important." Elias bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, it was an honor to serve. Humans are not strong in the way Xylarians are, but we survive, and sometimes that makes all the difference." Vela stepped forward, her eyes bright with admiration. "Mother, the commander is extraordinary. He guided me, protected me, and helped me see that there is more to survival than raw strength. Humans are remarkable." Malera regarded her daughter with pride, her eyes softening. "You have learned well, Vela. Strength is important, yes, but wisdom and courage are what sustain us through the challenges of life and leadership. And sometimes the greatest allies are those we least expect." The return to the capital was met with a mixture of curiosity and respect. Citizens of Zithera, hearing of the rogue faction's defeat, watched with awe as the human and princess arrived together. For generations, humans had been underestimated, seen as clever but fragile. Today that perception began to change. In the palace, the queen held a formal audience. She addressed her council and advisors, her voice carrying across the grand hall. "Commander Elias Ward has shown us that humans, though not as physically powerful as Xylarians, possess a strength of mind and heart that is invaluable. Let this be a lesson to all. Underestimate humans at your own peril." Applause echoed through the chamber, and for the first time, humans were truly acknowledged as equals in ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. Vela looked at Elias, pride shining in her eyes. "You have changed how my people see humans," she whispered. Elias smiled. "Sometimes it takes one event, one partnership to show the truth. Humans are capable of greatness, and you have seen it firsthand." The queen approached Elias, placing a hand gently on his shoulder. "I may be too old for the challenges of ruling an empire in these turbulent times, but I have confidence in the future. You, Commander, and my daughter together, you will ensure that humanity and Xylarians can face any threat." Vela stepped forward, her voice full of conviction. "I will learn from both of you. Strength, strategy, and courage combined will guide me. And humans. I now know you are not to be underestimated." Elias felt a quiet pride. This journey had begun as a dangerous mission, filled with doubt and uncertainty. He had feared his age, his limitations, and the vast power of the Xylarians. But humans had endured, adapted, and succeeded where others might have failed. It was a moment of recognition, not just for him, but for all humanity. In the days that followed, Vela trained alongside Elias, combining her Xylarian strength with the human strategies he had taught her. They worked together to strengthen the Empire's defenses, anticipating threats and preparing for challenges. Vela's respect for humans deepened with each lesson, understanding that courage and intelligence were as powerful as any weapon. Elias, for his part, found a new sense of purpose. He had served across the galaxy, but few missions had offered the opportunity to teach, protect, and inspire. Humanity's potential, underestimated for so long, was now being recognized in the heart of a mighty alien empire. The Queen observed them with satisfaction. Her trust in Elias had been rewarded, and her daughter was stronger, wiser, and more prepared than ever. Melira's words, spoken quietly years ago, had come true. Humans were capable of incredible things, and her daughter had learned to see that truth. One evening, as the twin moons of Zythera rose over the palace, Elias and Vela stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The crystal towers shimmered in the moonlight, casting reflections across the streets below. The city was peaceful, yet alive with energy and potential. "You were right, Commander," Vela said softly. "Humans think differently. We have strength, yes, but you have shown me that the mind and heart are just as important. I am grateful for your guidance," Elias nodded, "and I am grateful for your trust. Humans survive because we adapt, learn, and act. Together we can achieve more than either of us could alone." Vela smiled faintly. "Perhaps this is just the beginning. Humans and Xylarians. Working together we could change the galaxy." Elias looked at her, the stars reflecting in her eyes. "Perhaps we already have." The next morning, the Queen held a ceremony in the palace courtyard. Citizens of Zythera gathered to witness the recognition of Elias's contributions. She addressed the crowd with her voice clear and strong. "Today we honor Commander Elias Ward, a human who has proven that courage, cleverness, and adaptability are as valuable as strength. Let this day be remembered as a turning point. Humans are not fragile. They are partners, allies, and friends, and we, the Xylarians, are wiser for having worked alongside them." Applause filled the courtyard. Vela stood beside Elias, proud of the human who had saved her life and taught her a new way to see the universe. As the ceremony concluded, the Queen spoke to Elias privately. "You have done more than protect my daughter. You have changed how humans are viewed across the galaxy. Your name will be remembered here as it should be." Elias bowed. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I am honored. Humans often survive against impossible odds, not because we are strong, but because we never give up and always find a way forward." The Queen smiled, her eyes reflecting wisdom and pride. "Indeed. And now my daughter is prepared and your people are respected. That is a legacy worth more than any battle won." In the following days, Elias and Vela trained together, exploring ways to strengthen alliances between humans and Xylarians. They shared knowledge, strategy, and understanding, creating bonds that would last generations. The princess grew not only in skill but in wisdom, learning the importance of courage, observation, and teamwork. Elias, once a soldier weary of age and battle, found a renewed sense of purpose. Humanity's ingenuity, long underestimated, was now recognized by one of the most powerful species in the galaxy, and he knew that wherever danger arose, wherever challenges threatened the weak or the clever, humans would be ready, not through raw strength alone, but through intelligence, courage, and heart. One evening, as the palace gardens glowed under the twin moons, Melira approached Elias and Vela. "I may have been too old to face these challenges myself," she said, her voice gentle, "but my daughter is ready, and humans. You have proven your worth. Together, you will shape a future where the galaxy sees humans as they truly are, capable, courageous, and remarkable." Vela looked at Elias, gratitude shining in her eyes. "Thank you," she said softly, "for everything." Elias placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "The journey is far from over, Princess, but together we will face whatever comes next. Humans survive, and we will show the galaxy that survival is just the beginning of greatness." The twin moons of Zythera rose higher, casting silver light across the palace. Commander Elias Ward, once uncertain and weary, now stood recognized, respected, and confident. Princess Vela, stronger and wiser than ever, had learned to see the true value of human ingenuity. And as the stars sparkled overhead, it was clear to all that humanity, though underestimated, often dismissed, and considered fragile, was capable of extraordinary feats. Courage, cleverness, and heart could achieve what brute strength alone could not. The galaxy had witnessed the beginning of a new era, and humanity, with its resilience, intelligence, and unwavering courage, would play a role larger than anyone had imagined. The journey had ended for now, but the story of humans and Xylarians, of bravery and ingenuity, was only just beginning, and for Commander Elia,